Welcome to another episode of What is Your Favorite Thing About Basketball. Today I'm discussing this with Katie Heindl, who is a fantastic writer, and we are discussing joy and all the different interpretations of it we can find within basketball, the community, watching it, playing it, whatever. I sincerely hope you enjoy the episode. Katie Heindl, what is your favorite thing about basketball?
This was tough. You know that this was tough for me, but I tried to distill everything I love about basketball, be that just like individual elements, kind of like long consuming threads. And they all came down to one thing, and that's joy.
Okay, so what made you go with joy? And I guess I'll assume that you're not talking about the WNBA players Joy Cheek or Joy Holmes Harris.
I mean, I could. I think unfortunately or not, yes, because of their names, but also I think because they embody what it is I'm talking about. What I said, I think joy to me, when I look at a dunk, when I look at a chase down block, that's just like taking someone off the plane of this existence. When I look at a bench celebrating, when I look at, the disbelief in a player's face or like a fan's face when a shot falls, a lot of those things are just culminations of joy, right? This kind of visceral, over the top feeling that is almost uncontainable. So I think joy might even be a stretch in terms of like the proper word to describe all of it. But I also have to come back to the thing that I think is what keeps me coming back to basketball again and again. I mean, I don't watch, me, like, it's not a big surprise to say, like, I don't watch basketball for like the numbers or like the analytical satisfaction or like efficiency. I don't. And honestly, if we had enough time, I could make arguments for all those things fitting in as well under the header of joy. But for me, the experience is emotional. I've like painted myself into a little bit of like a caricature, like corner with that, but it's true. So I should own up to it. But joy is like why I watch basketball. I watch basketball to feel good and feel happy and feel kind of amazed at the things that I don't think we often recognize enough are difficult and like almost near impossible. And we can sometimes undervalue and really oversimplify, like saying someone is bad at basketball, which is always funny to me because it's like, no, they're not. Like they're in the NBA. They're like maybe compared to like their best teammate that night, but they're really not bad at their jobs. And so yeah, like all of this is more than happiness. It is a sense of, I think, suspended happiness, which to me is what joy is.
Okay, so like 4 things came to mind that I want to ask you, and I guess we'll work through them unless you say other things that spring up questions of mine, which probably will. But the first thing is that Lewis, when I talked to him yesterday, and we were talking about stories, we were talking about there's no need for always zero sum, the winner and the loser. And he also was talking about writing to describe a player's game and how if you're describing Siakam's jump shot, the moment you mention what percentage he shoots, you've killed the story. What do you think about that?
I agree with Lewis. I mean, we're both precious little writers, but like, yes. I agree with him completely. I mean, you can fold, because to me, the numbers are like the trappings. The numbers are like the foundation of the house, right? But like joy to me is the architecture. Like, and architects hate engineers for this reason, right? Architects are the ones drawing up the out of control plans, and engineers are the ones being like, this isn't actually functionally possible, And like, that's where I feel like you can lay the foundational groundwork, especially if you're writing about basketball, through your stats, through your analytics. That's fine. But you want to springboard at least I want to springboard from that into something beyond that is going to kind of lift people up and remind them of like what it is in motion that they're watching and like why they love watching that. So yeah, I think the two can exist in tandem, but you have to move beyond the stats, I think, to tell the full story.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned undervalued aspects of the NBA and how they tie into joyous occasions. Is there anything that you could point to, or some sort of collective thing you could point to that you think that would be?
Undervalued aspects. Yeah, I think to me, I think this is always like, and I can see this in the players I love and the teams and like kind of legacies I go back and fall really hard for, which are generally underdogs, you know, and underdog stories. I really like even when writing about basketball or having the opportunity to talk to athletes, I really like talking to the people that don't get spoken to that often, because they're going to be the most honest with you because they've been undervalued in that sense, right? The spotlight might be on the guy next to them, and they may not have had the chance yet to tell their own story. So that's one thing I think. I really just like teams that creep up from behind. I also really like players that do the dirty work. I mean, like do the intangibles, as we say. Kyle Lowry, obviously, is someone who just fulfilled that, like night in, night out, tirelessly. I love that kind of player. I guess that is tied in a more stringent way to this like winning mentality, you know, and what we hear often just about like doing everything it takes to get a win, which can be joyful. But winning to me is also not necessarily like the purest encapsulation of like joy in basketball, you know? It's like it's a lot of these other kind of lesser seen things. I mean, again, like I love it when you can. This is why I actually loved the exercise of the shot and what it brought out in everyone, because in all of those stills, you could pick a person in the audience and see what they were going through, like in, you know, those like tenths of a second. I love shit like that because to me, that is like, those are like the lesser appreciated and lesser examined things, right? And it is just to see the way that someone is experiencing like this out of control, very joyful moment and like everything that's kind of running across their face. And you get to do that collectively at once through the gift of slow-mo replay and like incredible sports photography, but stuff like that. And there's stuff like that happening in every game. There's stuff like that happening on like a Tuesday night game in February. There, you just kind of have to know where to look for it. And I guess I just love figuring out where that is.
I really, that resonates with me because as somebody who I got to, like as a teenager, I got to travel around and play, I'd say a pretty good level of basketball. And it was a really big part of my life. But basketball for me has never really been about winning or losing, despite playing meaningful games. It was always about the connection it allowed me to create with other people. And basically all of my closest friends are somebody I met on a basketball court or somebody I met who also writes about basketball. And that connectivity has brought a lot of joy to my life. And when I play basketball, I feel like that's the best place I could be in the world. I feel like not just I get to express my physical self as a basketball player using the basketball and the court as a medium for that expression, but I also feel my personality as somebody who enjoys and riffs about the ongoing basketball conversations. And that means that when I watch NBA games, my favorite thing is obviously the highlights, incredible feats of athleticism, yes. But I love the in-between moments in plays when players joke, laugh, smile with each other, opposing players, whatever. I think that is what brings me a lot of joy in NBA games.
Yeah, I love I love a mic'd up. I mean, there's some like not great mic'd ups, but like
Yeah.
most mic'd ups, you're going to get something good, even if it's just someone groaning or making a really strange sound, with their mouths, and like reacting to the game in real time, the same as you would. Like, I love that stuff because it's just like a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, right? In real time. And it's so nominal. Like, it's such like a tiny little thing. And I get that it's a gimmick, but I love it as a gimmick. And like I think what you said about playing basketball is very beautiful. And like, not just playing, so you're in this state where your body's kind of working in concert with like your heart and all the things that you love about this game that you cover and has been so fulfilling in your life, but also that as a backdrop for meeting people and kind of like coming together with similarly minded people, something that I think you and I have talked about, but that got me really down during the height of the pandemic when games were like not in Toronto anymore, was losing that side of it, right? Like covering it from afar, and not just for like the lack of opportunities to speak with players, but the lack of opportunity to go to games and see my friends or like meet new people or like see these weird things that happen in the tunnels, like the near collisions when like Robin Lopez is bolting down the tunnel screaming and he almost runs into that gigantic bag of popcorn that's always sitting outside of the visitor team locker room. I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's always there waiting for them. But there's just stuff like that I'm always reminded of, like the inner workings of this thing that we love. And when you don't have it, or when I didn't have it for that time, it felt so isolating. And like I was just in my own really linear, kind of insular, not as fulfilling bubble. And it was just working with kind of one half, like one half of the story. So to have that back now, but you don't recognize it fully until it's gone and it's back. You realize how much you missed. But I'm glad that you said that, because I think that's a really important thing for us too.
Mm-hmm. So Phil Jackson was for years and years like the new wave of NBA philosophy of thought. He was like the hippie coach, and he was, radical for players, both in what he allowed them to do off the court and the way that he embraced some of their skills on the court. And so since you are also a great basketball thinker, I want to bounce this quote off of you. So from Phil Jackson, quote, "In basketball, as in life, true joy comes from being fully present in each and every moment, not just when things are going your way," end quote. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it kind of behooves me to agree with Phil Jackson, who could sometimes be a little bit like Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance about his like spirituality, or like his spiritual approach to the game, whatever. But I agree with him. And I think it kind of has to do even with what I was just talking about before. It's like, to be present in moments just of joy. Of course, you should absolutely try and do that, because those moments are so fleeting. You don't know when they're going to come back. You should really just like dig in and saturate your brain and like body with them. But to appreciate them to that degree, you also got to go through the shittier and like much worse moments, and maybe droughts, personal droughts, emotional droughts, long stretches of the things that you don't want. And yeah, like maybe you want to fast forward like past that stuff, but I think it is as important to be present as much as you can be in that too, because like I think that also the difficult thing with being present now, especially, is like you have this inclination, especially with your phone, right, to just always pull it out. And it's so weird to be like, yeah, I'm not even present in the moment. I'm standing here holding my phone because I'm actually just in my phone. So to be like alone and still not be present. This is getting a bit Zen and motorcycle maintenance-y. But yeah, I think all to say, like, I agree with him. And I think you've got to go through the bad to get the good, like in a game where you've got to go through those like really, really dismal games, whether it's as a fan or, some like covering a game for a story, to kind of wring the joyful moments out of it.
Mm-hmm. Zen, of course, joy, of course, but along the way you discovered disassociation and how scary that can be. The other thing I wanted to ask, the 19th overall pick of the basketball feelings draft went to Dan Devine, and he chose joy.
Mm-hmm.
Did he trade this to you?
No. No. I'm trying to remember. I can't believe I just forgot how the draft that I invented worked. Right. Okay. I had drafted, I had picked all these feelings individually. And then what I did was draft the order of everyone who contributed with my name in as many times as I needed to like make up for the total amount of draftees. And the first person would have the full list to choose from of feelings. And then, when Dan went, he only had, X amount left. They didn't get to draft necessarily in real time. They drafted almost like in the NBA draft with what was then left available to them. Dan did not trade. No one actually traded a feeling, which I thought was interesting, but also I'm glad for, because I don't actually know how. It would have required a completely different system. We were not doing it in real time. It ended up taking 2.5 months to get done. So that would have been an exercise across time and space. But no, Dan picked joy. I was super shocked that it had stayed on the board as long as it did. I wonder if that had something to do with where we were at in the pandemic at that point, and joy wasn't necessarily in abundance, but I think he did a great job with it.
Do you think we're closer to capturing more of it?
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, I know we've got some very aggravating and annoying and divisive things in the news every day, but I try and look at it as where we were at this time last year, and what kind of hopefulness we had available to us, being a little bit less than what we have now. So yeah, I think so. At least I feel that way. But maybe that's a Phil Jackson thing. Maybe that's being in the moment, appreciating the joy as it comes to me.
Yeah. Well, I think a great way to end this podcast is to reflect upon with a little story of how you and I met and joy around basketball. We talked about community and making friends, and the hardest I laughed actually while being in Toronto was when you came over and we were working a game together, and we collaborated on a tweet from Lewis's account that said, "They call Big Mustard." Because he has a mustard sweater, and we wanted to say they call me Big Mustard, but we spelled it incorrectly.
I buckled under pressure completely is what happened. And then
we've got a phone call. I'll edit this out.
Okay. I was like, is it Lewis? Did he sense it again?
It's a very holistic podcasting experience. I can't reach the phone.
It's all good.
No message.
Oh, damn. I hate when that happens. That makes me very happy to hear. That was the most that you laughed in your time in Toronto. Happy and maybe sad. I wish you had some funnier things going on.
I think it's more of a testament to how hard, how funny it really was. I busted a gut.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's because of his timing, because he came kind of ambling down those steps up in the press gondola.
Pizza in hand.
Yeah. As we had just smashed the tweet button, and to Lewis's credit, his bright eye, wide-eyed face, so happy to see me, not knowing what I had just done from his laptop. And then when we told him, he was like, that's funny. You should just leave it.
Well, I think he tried to hire you as his social media person at that point in time. He said, you should tweet for me.
Yeah, because he was like, I never know what jokes to make, or something just equally as earnest.
Very
Like
Lewis.
Lewisy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty joyful. And if I remember correctly, no, that game turned out to be bad, but it got joyful for a couple of stretches, right? Like they got within the comeback
Well,
and then it fell away from them.
that was Justin Champagny. What was it? You were talking about faces in tenths of seconds. The faces were robbed by tenths of seconds, I guess, in that game, because Justin Champagny's tip that went in to win was taken away. I guess it was like a 2/10 too late or something like that.
And he got like mobbed on the court too, which I thought, again, wonderful encapsulation of joy, something I completely love to watch. And that was robbed from them as well.
He still got to experience it though. You know, like, is the joy gone? Because he got not the biomechanical. He got the biochemical response, I guess, right? So it was there.
Yeah, it's like a guitar solo lingering in the air.
Katie, do you have any parting shots about joy and basketball?
Oof, boy. Well, I know you're trying to keep it short. No, for everybody. No, I kind of want to part with, like, to emphasize again what we touched on, but it's just this idea that, like, joy is kind of present in most moments, even if it's not immediately apparent where or why, or how. But I think it's easier to find it in basketball because, one, is just a game. Two, there's a million things going on at once on the court, whether it's like actually on the floor or in the stands around it. So it can be a good exercise in, like, if you're not feeling that great, you can toss a game on and just kind of get lulled into almost even like the rhythmic joy, I think, of basketball. Can be so soothing if you just really need to zone out and kind of like set your brain on the coffee table beside you. It allows you to do that. So I think sometimes if you can't find it in your own life, it's nice that we have the privilege to be able to kind of turn and try and find it in a basketball game.
Literally and figuratively, an arena for emotion. Thank you for coming on, Katie.
Thanks for having me.
Listener, I hope you enjoyed this dive into joy and basketball. I sincerely hope you did. But whether you got into it in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.